I gave you all the option to pick what today's video is going to be, so I am a man of the people. That was the vote as of the time of you seeing this, so I'm going to go with it. To be honest, kind of baited it because I knew everybody was going to pick that answer. Why? Back to the computer. In 2018, Riot Games introduced franchising to the LCS and promised it would bring more stability, yada yada yada. 5 years later, the amateur scene is dead, the region is filled with imports, and the teams are looking to leave. It goes on. And yeah, this is all a snowball from what's been the last 2 days of just constant information about the NACL, the player walkout that could be happening that will push off the start of the summer split. And yeah, it always culminates in a post like this. So let's take a step away from the keyboard, take a step away from the computer and the phone. Don't stop watching the video, but you know what I mean. Let's go outside, let's go for a walk and talk about this. So I know what you're wondering. Where are we going? What point am I trying to make? What are we doing here? You'll see in a second. It doesn't ultimately tie all that much, but it's just one spot that I want to show off. Pizza here in New York City is very much a delicacy. Everybody has their favorite slice spot that they want to go to. Everybody has their favorite whole pie spot. That deserves a whole video on its own, just on the different types and everybody's preferences. But when I moved to the city here 6 years ago, Emily and I tried out one spot because we didn't have a lot of money. The pizza was somewhat affordable. I think it was like 19 bucks for a whole pie, which wasn't bad for 16 inches. And we fell in love. Nothing since we moved here has compared to that slice of pizza. Is it the best in New York City? Probably not, but the sentimental attachment to it meant more than anything to us. The restaurant, Uncle Mario's. Something about the name Mario and it also being an Italian spot was great. There was an old lady who used to run it. The old lady who ran it was like some 82-year-old Italian lady whose sons would come in after school at like 5 or 6 o'clock and just like hang out at a table in the back, and she'd be serving everybody while also yelling at them at the same time. The service wasn't the quickest in the world by any means. I'm not going to deny that part, but food was really damn good. So without further ado, may I present to you Rincon 50. That right there is where Uncle Mario's used. Unfortunately, it has since closed down during COVID era, and I know what you're probably thinking, oh, well, you know, if the food service wasn't great or something happened, then, you know, it is what it is. And unfortunately, it closed down as somebody in the family passed, and then health complications within the family further from there just led to a series of unfortunate events. And now, by all means, I'm sure that spot is great. Like, I'm sure the food is good because they've been open for about 2.5 years now, I think. But it sucks to lose one of your favorite restaurants. But that's New York City for you. Things are always changing here for circumstances that might be common or uncommon. Shit happens and you get new restaurants, you get new spots, you get new everything here. It's always changing, which by all means some people do like, but others don't. And that's why I was a big proponent of franchising in the LCS. I'm not as big of a fan of those changes when it comes to teams in the LCS. Imagine a world where TSM in their prime had an unfortunate situation beyond just playing bad, which ended up leading to their roster getting relegated. Team Liquid was the closest example we had to that, where they had to bring in Double Lift to make sure that they didn't get relegated. Granted, they probably still would have gotten franchise partnership later down the road anyways, but look, you don't want to lose important brands. Now, you can make a debate and argument on whether these brands were big enough to the point where losing them would have been a bigger problem, but that churn is not necessarily a good thing in an environment where you need at least a little bit of stability to try and grow. Now, I won't act like I know everything about the LCS prior to 2018, given that I primarily started watching in 2018. So my entire history with League of Legends is pretty biased towards the franchising era. But from what I understand from Travis Gafford and other people who have talked about the eras before that, there were a good bit of problems that made franchising an actual answer. Unfortunately, none of the positive sides of this actually came through to a certain extent, other than maybe finding a few extra partners. But I don't want this to be just another video of Riot versus their promises and the things that went right, the things that went wrong in terms of what we could have had, what could have been now. Look, we are in franchising now. That's not changing. Riot's not paying out the millions of dollars it would cost to get rid of these agreements, to go back to promotion relegation, which would give financial uncertainty to all the teams and just cause a ton of problems, on top of the fact that Riot clearly wants that stability there in their other systems as well, given what Valorant's doing right now. Valorant unfortunately had the benefit of learning from League of Legends and implementing all the things that we weren't able to do effectively. So talk about where we're at right now and see if there's anything we can fix or any spotlight we can shine on who needs to get their shit together in order for us to try and turn this thing around, or at least stop the spiral.
The one problem that I don't see enough people talking about that would have been an issue regardless of whether we franchised or not is this juxtaposition that we are in right now of which is more important, succeeding internationally or having a product that is compelling and entertaining with domestic players. Because the sad truth of the matter is, if we want to compete internationally, and even that is a very subjective term, we're going to continue to import. Teams have been doing that since, what, 2016? Even before I started watching, we had LMQ come over and a team tried to just import all of their players. So it's not like, this is a problem that existed well before franchising, and we're now seeing the problems with it years down the line as North America continues to just not be a competitive region internationally. So we continue to import more players to try and be like them because we don't have faith in our domestic players to get up to that level, which feeds into the whole problem of, oh, the NACL is in the abysmal state that it is with the whole $1,000 pay for amateur players that were competing in the NACL that might be like the new majority salary for this upcoming year. Luckily, they don't have to live in LA anymore, but like, it pretty much hits home the entire point of all of this, and that franchising, at least in my opinion, has nothing to do with why we are failing, quote unquote, as a region. It's that we tied ourselves to international success for such a long period of time that now that we know that we can't rely upon it, we don't know what to do. We continue to import players at the same rate that we did back, similar to before franchising. I'm sure if you got rid of the import rule, the majority of the teams in the LCS would not have North American players on them at all. So nothing technically changed. Why? Because ultimately their goal is to compete internationally. Their goal is not to put on an entertaining product for North American fans with North American players. And I know the common criticism against that is like, oh, you're being discriminatory towards these imports, and everybody else is like, no, we're not. Riot Games removed that ability for 5 friends who were just all really good at the video game to play their ass off, spend 60, 70 hours a week grinding the game, and the possibility that they hit that promotion stage to the LCS and benefit for financial security for teams and for everybody else, which at the end of the day, you want to make sure everybody's sustainable with money there. If venture capitalists came in and were able to influence the scene without franchising and drove up salaries to that level, and then you just saw teams get evaporated overnight because they got relegated, I don't think people understand the true problems that would have happened in that world as well. There's no perfect solution. So going forward, what do we do? How do we solve this problem? Riot's going to give you one answer, the teams are going to give you another answer, and the players are just going to be like, I just want to play the game and have fun and try and compete on the international stage. My answer is you invest in the collegiate scene. Every LCS team puts a certain amount of scholarships at the college level, which encourages people to go to school, play. They can absorb the cost of housing, of food, of meals, of everything else. Now the games are being played online via the Chicago server. Pretty much that unlocks the entire Northeast and Chicago area for schools if they want to play in the system to do so. Start investing in them, and then hopefully that talent feeds up. From the LCS team side, on top of that then, in addition to these scholarships that you're giving out, the only other thing that I can think of is that you all agree to reduce the import rule or get rid of grandfathering rules. You need to guarantee that if you're funding these development systems, like this collegiate scene or whatever else, whatever you want to do with it, that those players can actually move up, that they can see the fruits of their labor, that you're not just paying for 4 years of college for them to then go and do something else. You want to be able to see that reward in the LCS, and if the majority of players are not even getting a chance, then that's a problem. Not even a majority, I'd say like, what, 50%? If 50% of people in that scene are not getting a chance, then I don't know what to tell you. The biggest benefit of a franchise system is that if you are a bottom team, you can ultimately rely on the fact that you know you're going to be around in years to come, and you can wait for those draft picks at the bottom. You can wait for those college players to come on up and eventually save your team, or draft the kid straight out of high school. We had problems with our draft because teams would rig it and have like behind the scenes deals with players like Blabber and others that it's just like they screwed the pooch there to gain the competitive advantage, and you need to put some sort of stipulation in to make sure that you protect against that. But that draft is the only way in my mind to make franchising worth it, because as of right now, if you're a bottom team, you're just waiting for your team to sell, because there's very little that can actually turn it around without getting some sort of financial investment from somebody else that skyrockets the amount of money that you have available to be able to pay for somebody. But if you have this rookie class of talent that's constantly coming in for a low price point that every team can afford, then all of a sudden all of your teams start becoming more competitive with each other. We're not talking about international, for the love of God. I know this video is a bit more rambly than others and a little less structured, but the truth is that we as fans have no say over this issue, this problem, nor the solution or anything else that comes with it. We can sit here and we can talk about it the entire time, but it is what it is. Look, franchising's not a failure, but it's also not a success. And the only way to turn around this system is if everybody from all sides comes together, agrees upon a solution, and acts upon it. Even if teams don't agree, even if you have 2 or 3 holdouts that think, this isn't the way forward, maybe we should try something else. You have to be united. You have to at least give it a try. You have to swallow your pride for just a little bit and make sure that everybody at least gives it a shot. Because if this is dying, like people want you to believe it is, like social media will make a big fuss about, even though I don't believe that it is, then you need to right the ship in some way. That means bringing down salaries. That means making sure that North American talent comes up, giving people a reason to invest into your team beyond just playing on the rifts. Like, there needs to be so much more in a united front. And whether we had relegation or anything else, that wouldn't change this. We are in the situation we're in right now. And you can look back at the past and complain about anything all you want. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters right now is our actions going forward. And my question to you all is this: are we going to continue to sulk, or are we finally going to start trying to move on? If you got a problem with that, I would advise you to take a step back or maybe even step away, because this constant hashing of negativity and saying we need to go back to this or reflecting upon the past, we're not in 2016 anymore, we're in 2023. And we need to deal with the realities of our ecosystem right now in the situation that we're in. And if you can't get on board with that, and you can't adapt to the fact that things are going to change massively, that we are going to see massive evolutions of the scene, and it's not going to look like it did before, that's fine. It's going to be a struggle, but ultimately we'll get to the other side. And if you're not along for that ride, don't sit here and gloat at the end that you made it. Use TSM as the example. If you're not invested in this scene and you don't think it can survive, get out. Sell. Go somewhere else. I'm not going to blame you. That's fine. You want to go to the LPL or LCK because you think that's the only way to win worlds and that's your priority? Fine. Go and do that. If you don't think that the LCS is going to last, that it's all dying, that you got problems, and if I see any of that crap from teams remaining, it's like, screw you. Like, loyalty is important when it comes to this. And if you're not invested in it, leave. Go. Because I want everybody that's remaining after this year going into 2024 to be on the same damn page and be united in whatever efforts we decide.